Jordan and Avalon developments are also prime candidates for this program.
I'm trying to better myself for the good of my family and get out of trouble.
They don't have a lot of the opportunities some of the other kids have as far as education, as far as learning some of the basic fundamental skills that a lot of kids, like, in other areas take for granted.
Rivera is thankful for his coveted spot in the academy and warns others only to join if they will be 100% committed to changing their lives for the better.
If you want to join Sunburst, make sure you actually want to do it and actually complete it, because if you don't, you're actually taking up the spot of a lot of other kids who actually do want to go.
It teaches them in life, no matter what they do, they'll learn the discipline, they'll learn the fortitude, they'll learn the basic, working skills to compete with other, folks as they get older in society.
With a 95% success rate and no charge to families the LAPD refers, the program is very popular. The next class starts in January 2014. Over 1,000 applications will be sent in, but only 200 cadets will be accepted. I'm Cindy San Luis for LA This Week.
For more information on the Academy, go to sunburstyouthacademy.com. Hollywood glamour, exotic dance, and spellbinding magic. They're all part of the picture on this week's edition of Things to Do.
If you're looking for a laugh, what better place to look than the Meatballs of Comedy? Every Friday night at Victorio's Restaurante in North Hollywood. The Meatballs of Comedy features America's funniest Italian comedians. If you're not Italian, you just might think you are by the end of the evening. The fun starts at 8 p.m. and reservations are recommended. Victorio's Restaurante is located at 10901 Victory Boulevard in North Hollywood. For more information, check out the meatballsofcomedy.com. If you're looking for glamour this Labor Day weekend, stop by the Hollywood Museum for one of your last chances to see Marilyn Monroe, the exhibit, the largest display of authentic memorabilia of Marilyn's life and legacy. The exhibit features costumes, jewelry, furs, and accessories from her films, her personal wardrobe, and her 1961 Fleetwood Cadillac, given as a gift from 20th Century Fox mogul Darryl F. Zanuck. The Hollywood Museum is located in the historic Max Factor building at 1660 North Highland Avenue in Hollywood. For more information, visit the website at thehollywoodmuseum.com. If you're in the mood for something more exotic, head over to the John Anson Ford Amphitheater Saturday morning for the CalArts Balinese Dance Ensemble, a celebration of the tropical island of Bali, where music and dance are an integral part of the culture. The ensemble honors a rich culture of the island with traditional instruments and elaborate, colorful costumes. Children under 12 are free to this event, and tickets for adults are only $5. The Ford Theaters are located at 2580 Cahuenga Boulevard East. For more information, be sure to visit fordtheaters.org. Ready to put some magic in your life? In Studio City this Sunday at 3 p.m., catch a matinee of Carney Magic, a theater show that blends mind-blowing sleight of hand with intelligence, taste, and wit, resulting in nothing less than pure entertainment. While not a kiddie show, it is family-friendly. Catch one of the two last performances of Carney Magic at the Two Roads Theater in Studio City at 4348 Tujunga Avenue. For more information, go to carneymagic.com. You want more magic? Well, you've come to the right place. Smoke and Mirrors, playing at the Road Theater in North Hollywood, isn't just a heartfelt comic drama. It's drama with mind-bending magic, audience participation, and themes of love, loss, and, yes, magic. Created by and starring actor Albie Selznick, Smoke and Mirrors plays at 8 p.m. Friday and Saturday, and Sunday at 3 p.m. The Road Theater is located at 5108 Lankershim Boulevard in North Hollywood. For more information, go to smokeandmirrorsmagic.com. And that's a look at some upcoming things to do.
Downtown LA's Grand Park is hosting this year's Movies in the Park series throughout the summer. And Gil Reyes reports the movies are free.
With LA City Hall as the backdrop, families gather at nearby Grand Park for free movies under the stars.
We actually have some friends that are visiting from out of town, and so we're looking for something to do in the area.
LA's Movies in the Park series is back. featuring family-friendly films like Jurassic Park and E.T. So pack the blanket and bring the snacks.
We do have a metro stop here in Grand Park, which is on the red and the purple line, and it's the stop is Civic Center. And that drops you off right here in the park, so you can take the metro.
This summertime tradition is all about family, friends, and new friends getting together.
Now our kids know each other, which is kind of fun. I mean, and they've gotten along. The boys just met today, and they're already really good friends.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy a free summer movie on us while it lasts. At Grand Park in downtown L.A., Gil Reyes for L.A. This Week.
The screenings are held every Saturday night through September 14th. For a list of the films and showtimes, log on to grandparkla.org. And that's going to do it for this edition of LA This Week. Thanks for joining us. I'm Anita Bennett, and we want to remind you that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
Need a recycling center? Call 311, the toll-free number for non-emergency services. 311, your one call to City Hall. Graffiti removal? Call 311, the toll-free number for non-emergency services. 311, your one call to City Hall.
Hi, this is Rabbi Mentz of Chabad of Bel Air, living in the great city of angels. You are watching LA City View 35, our channel, our city.
Good morning. It is Tuesday, August 27th. I'd like to welcome you all to your Los Angeles City Council chambers. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m., and I want to assure you that you are welcome. Madam Clerk, I do believe we have a quorum. Could you please call the roll?
Blumenfield, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Huizar, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Martinez, O'Farrell, Parks, Price, Weston. 10 members present. A quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Okay, Bloomingfield moves and Bonin seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Okay, Fuentes moves and O'Farrell seconds. That brings us where?
Mr. President, today is Tuesday, and now would be the time for the flag salute.
Okay, if we could all rise, we'll be led in today's flag salute by Councilmember Mike Bonin because he has a tie on.
If I'd known, it would have been red, white, and blue. Please place your hands over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin. Madam Clerk, maybe we should just go through the calendar real quick, and then we'll begin with our presentation.
First, Mr. President, there's a request to continue item 8 to September 10th and item 13 to September 27th.
Okay, without objection, that'll be the order. Next.
Items 1 and 2 are items noticed for public hearing. The Department of Building and Safety reports that item 1 may be received and filed inasmuch as the lien has been paid. Also, there's request to receive and file item 2 inasmuch as the maintenance district has been dissolved.
Okay, without objection, those items will be received and filed. What's the next section on the agenda?
Oh, excuse me, Mr. President, there is a card on item 1, so that one we should...
Okay, let's hold item 1 then. Let's go to the next section.
Items 3 through 29 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Member specials, Mr. Huizar.
3, 4, and 5, and Mr. President, we could take them all together when the time comes up. Thank you.
Okay, so let's hold 3, 4, and 5 at the request of Mr. Huizar. Mr. Parks.
Number 12, special, and I just asked, as a point of order, a number of the commissioners today, there was no ethics letter, and whether we can move on those without the ethics letter.
Okay, let's, if we could, wait till we get there and then figure out how we'll proceed. Mr. Labange.
18, please. And we were in committee this morning, and we requested many of the commissioners just for
Okay, let's, Madam Clerk, let's hold Mr. Labange's item and Mr. Parks's. Do you have, no, we don't have cards on this. Any other specials? Let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, what's next?
Items 30 through 49 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes required for consideration.
Okay, without objection, those items are now before us. Mr. Parks.
Number 42, special.
42 special for Mr. Parks. Mr. O'Farrell.
45 special, please.
45 for Mr. O'Farrell. Do you have cards?
Cards on items 30, 35, 40, 44, 42, and 47.
Okay, let's hold those items and prepare to vote on the remaining items. So let's open the roll. Well,
Correction.
I didn't see you, Mr.
Sorry,
O'Farrell.
correction. It's item 47, not 45 special.
Okay, well, we'll switch. We'll add 45 to the list of action items and 47. 48 for Mr. Cedillo, it's my understanding, wants 48 held. Let's prepare to vote on the remaining items. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, thank you. Per Mr. Buscaino.
34, sir.
34, forthwith. Okay, Mr. Labange, are you ready? If so, the floor belongs to you, Mr. Labange.
How are you? Good to see you. Mr. President, it's a wonderful day for our Sister City program, of which we have 25 sister cities, but all the way from Mumbai, our sister city in India, I'm going too fast, Mitch, is Ashla Putley. Give her a big hand right here. She's one of the top recording persons. She's going to be honored at the Grammy Museum. Her works, her life's work that is here. And I wanted to recite some of those very special things that you have done over the course of time. Founder and president of the APMP Records Publishing. She's an international singer, songwriter, actress, and producer, Mr. Buscaino. You got a chance if you get to India. Trained in Indian classic and European opera, she broke through the mainstream Western career in the early 1970s, both as a recording artist of albums under the banner and major labels of EMI, CBS, Sony, Polygram, and the RCA and Warner's label. Her music is as big and has been sampled by P. Diddy, Notorious B.I.G., Jay-Z, 50 Cent, and a lot of other good rappers. Good job there. That's around the world we go. She has numerous accolades, winning the prestigious Downbeat Magazine Critics Poll for her jazz recordings, and to be honored with the Bollywood Music Awards for Lifetime Achievement, Gil. She's a very special woman. She's been honored here with a display at the Grammy Museum at Mr. Price's district at the Grammy Museum at LA Live. And this will be featured for the whole year. Beyond Bollywood, Indian Americans who shaped the nation at the Grammy Museum. And that will not only be down the street here, but go to the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C.
Yes,
for 1 year starting this November. So it's very special to have you here, and I want to salute you. And Mira, you're so special as our chairperson. I want you to say a few words from the heart and soul of the Los Angeles Indian community, what this means to have this special singer here.
Thank you, Tom. I mean, you always facilitate these things, so thanks a lot. Well, you know, Asha is the kind of a person who kind of personifies what the Sister City program is all about by blending the two cultures, by fusing the fusion of Indian music with the Western music, and, you know, from classical tradition to joining with rappers. That's amazing. So this is what Sister City program is all about, and thanks to Tom for helping us nurture the program. Thank you, Asha.
Mira, thank you for your work on Sister City. Let's hear it from Asha right now. Give her a big hand. To speak and sing one verse.
He's so fabulous. I feel I should sing the song. But first of all, thank you to every council member, and especially Tom LaBonge, for presenting me this wonderful proclamation. And I would like to thank LA City, of course, and Meera Advani Honeycutt, and the LA Mumbai sister cities, and all of you for coming. And thank you so much. And I hope you do get the time to go to the Grammy Museum and see the exhibit. It's on till the end of the month.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then Smithsonian.
Mr. President, Ms. Honeycutt does such a great job. Please introduce our guests who are with you right now.
Yes. One of our board members is here, Barbara Hansen. She's one of our LA Mumbai Sister City board member. And this is Mara Schwartz. Lily Schwartz, and we have some more coming, but I guess they are looking for parking or something. But thank you very much for giving us this time this morning.
Well, Asha, we really want to thank you. Just do one quick verse, just one word.
Ooh, what would you like me to sing?
Well, Love Me Tender. No, I'm kidding you.
On a clear day.
You can see forever. Okay.
Okay.
Do it one more.
Oh, okay. People who need people. I'm now almost 70, by the way, so my voice is not what it used to be. I think the museum has stuff, but
no, well, thank you so
I'll
much.
Practice and come.
That People for People, that's the People to People program at Sister Cities. Let's give Asha a big hand, and thank you so very much. Okay.
Congratulations.
Over here. You sit down for the next presentation. Thank you. Good job. Thank you.
Mr. Cedillo, for a very special introduction and acknowledgement.
Mexico City's a sister city.
Tom tells us that Mexico City is a sister city, and we're very proud of that. But this is a surprise, an extraordinary moment here in City Hall. I had the privilege as a senator to work with one of the most extraordinary men of this century, an agent of change, no less, the President of Mexico, the Honorable Vicente Fox.
Thank you, sir. Muchísimas gracias, amigos de Los Angeles. Thank you very much, friends of Los Angeles. It's an honor for me to be here sharing these moments with this council of the city of LA. Un saludo grande desde México to this wonderful city. This wonderful city which has hosted so many of our people here, people that we're so proud of them, that they are my heroes. They're people that deserve all of our respect, and they are people that came here to this land of opportunities with the same dream of the Americas, or the American dream that you build every day here. So to all of you, thank you for welcoming so warmly all of our people here. Our best wish that we finally get through with that immigration reform, which would be a win-win-win situation. Winner number one, this great nation of the United States. Winner number one, Mexico as a neighboring and friendly nation to this great nation. And winner number three, people and citizens of NAFTA, of this North American Trade Agreement. So again, thank you for working every day so hard to build up this dream. As I said, it's not the dream of this nation, it's the dream of all the Americas, it's the dream of all Mexicans. God bless you. Muchas gracias. Que Dios les bendiga. Adiós.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk. Oh, Mr. Bonner, did you want to say something, Mr. President, before you leave?
Just a reconsideration, Mr. Bonner.
Oh, wait. Let's let Mr. Bonner.
I think we have the same issue. We were, I think, accidentally overly deferential to the mayor and already approved the BOAC commissioners.
No, I was going to ask for reconsideration, yes. And then
6, 7, 8, or 6, 7, 9, 10, 11.
Okay, Madam Clerk, are those the proper numbers?
Yes, Mr. President.
Of the items? Okay, this vote is for reconsideration. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, I'm going to hold this for a few minutes to see if we get the report back from ethics. Okay, we'll go to item number 1, which was called special by cards. Mr. John Walsh, would you please come forward? Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, honored guest, honored city council, honored public, including Mr. Zumadog. I am speaking on item 1, and I will be speaking for 1 minute on item 1. This concerns hearing protests relative to a lien for nuisance abatement. We're always for nuisance abatement. Everybody believes that their neighborhood is nuisance central in LA, and they're all right. There are code violations here. There are the nuisance involved will have to pay inspection costs. And this is at 18812 West Parthenia Street. You're doing a good job on nuisance abatement. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Members, let's prepare to vote on this item.
Excuse me, Mr. President. For this item, there is a request by the department to receive and file this item.
Okay, then we'll just, without objection, that'll be the order. That brings us, Mr. Walsh, don't go too far. We're going to take up item 10 that was held special by you as well.
John Walsh, blogging again at HollywoodHighlands.org, 100,000 successful server requests per month. This concerns, this is minute 2, the appointment of Ms. Jackie Goldberg to the Board of Airport Commissioners. We're 100% in favor of this. We want to know where she is. That way, if she causes any mischief, we know exactly where to go. For those who dislike term limits, I want you to understand, if there were no term limits, she'd be sitting right up there representing the 13th. Term limits enabled us to rid ourselves of Jackie Goldberg. I can't think of anything Ms. Goldberg is less suited for than the Airport Commission. Having lived under her, not literally, but having lived under her for I think 7 years until she escaped to this assembly for another 8 years, I have never heard her say a word about airports or anything. Her district is miles and miles from the airport, but again, she had to be given a reward. This is it, HollywoodHighlands.org.
Don't go far, Mr. Walsh. We're going to deal with another one of your issues next on this item. So we're going to hold this. This is part of the Airport Commission, so we'll hold that. Mr. Walsh, we're now going to item 30.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Often we get hour by hour 1,800 visitors in 1 hour when I'm speaking here. This is number 30. Again, this concerns, and incidentally, you told me not to go too far. I always go too far. Number 30 is, this is REAP. Again, I've told you that I've been lucky enough not to have an abusive landlord, but there are abusive landlords. There are landlords that are abused, and Bill Huey does a great job of defending them. As far as REAP is concerned, these are various properties that have fixed up their property, have repaired their property, and now will be able to get their rent paid directly from the renters to them. We're 100% in favor of this. Stay tuned for public comment. Zuma Dog will be there. HollywoodHighlands.org. 3 minutes.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Mr. Parks.
Number 15 reconsidered.
Which one?
15.
Item 15. Let's vote on reconsideration at the request of Mr. Parks. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Mr. Parks, when did you want to take this up?
We can do it right now. The city attorney's here.
Go right ahead.
Colleagues, I've asked the city attorney to come out. I think what's important is to hear from the city attorney on an issue that deals with non-commercial advertising and the policy that's in place, and by moving forward in this motion, what and how it may impair current and future use of this, our current ordinance, and how to deal with non-commercial advertising. So we're going to have the city attorney come up at this time. Why don't you give us the background and where we are on making this movement?
Thank you, Councilmember Parks. Good morning, council members. I'm here from the City Attorney's Office to talk about our bus policy, our ad policy. Under the current policy, we allow government messages and commercial messages, and this is done so that we don't open up our buses, they don't become a designated public forum, which means that any advertising could go on those buses. We wouldn't be allowed to regulate the message. You could get people who hate other groups in the city, and they could advertise that they hate the other groups. This happened in New York recently, and the Second Circuit upheld New York's a hate group to put hateful messages on the buses. What I would recommend and what I would urge the council to do is to amend their motion, item number 15. If the city wants to co-sponsor the AIDS Walk, then it becomes a government message. And I would urge council to amend that motion to turn that into a city-sponsored event. And we will come back, we will look at the policy, the City Attorney's Office and the Los Angeles Department of Transportation. We're already studying what other jurisdictions are doing, but a number of these jurisdictions have not been successful. San Francisco is having problems right now, also with hate messages on the buses. You can't exempt a group. Once we exempt a group, then we've opened up that bus as a designated public forum. And I would urge council to reconsider. I'll get on the table and do cartwheels to get you to reconsider this, because I don't think you want to go there, but I'll leave it to your decision. But I would strongly urge that you amend that motion if you want to put these AIDS Walk advertisements on the buses. We can co-sponsor the event. And I would urge, the City Attorney's Office would urge you to take that action.
Let me ask you, is that a different proposal than what's brought up by the General Manager of Transportation that says that the city would find a health or find a finding of a health issue and allowing that to occur?
That was something that the General Manager had brought up as something that we would look at to see if other jurisdictions have made that determination. Now, Chicago has recently changed its policy, and we're studying that policy right now. But we have to look at the Seventh Circuit case law. That doesn't mean that the Ninth Circuit would agree with the Seventh Circuit, but we're looking at that decision now. But it's not something we can do this week. The First Amendment is very complicated, and there are implications for every action that occurs. I can't believe, and I would strongly urge the council not to make our buses designated public forums. You will see messages you don't want to see as you're traveling down the city. Holocaust deniers could put their messages on our buses. People who have positions that this council would not agree with, or the city would not agree with, could put their messages on our buses.
Let me ask you if, in moving forward to address the issue for the current AIDS Walk, would you set a precedent by saying city co-hosted, or what are the ramifications of co-hosting or denying a future co-host?
It's somewhat risky, but however, if we're co-sponsoring, I would suggest that we're also co-paying for the ads. Then it becomes a government message. We can at least make that argument that this is a government event and that we're paying for the advertising on that.
So the added issue is the city would take on at least some of the cost by co-sponsoring?
Yes.
And then again, would that set a precedent in the future? And
well, we could always reject, if we don't want to sponsor, the government doesn't want to sponsor something, an event. It needs more consideration. It really does. I hate to put a damper on an event that everybody respects and thinks is relevant and necessary. However, once you open that door, it is very hard to close that door. You open up Pandora's box, and we will have no control over the message. Now, one of the things, like I said, I've talked to some of our First Amendment attorneys. We can put government messages on our buses, but that is something, it's the city's message. So if we make this the city's message, we can make that argument in court that this is now the city's message.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Parks, for raising some of the challenging issues about this set of concerns. And let me make clear that I have two concerns that I'm trying to address with this motion. First is to ensure that just like in past years, AIDS Walk Los Angeles is able to advertise with these signs on public transit, as they have in past years in Santa Monica, as they have in past years in Los Angeles. That's concern number one, and my principal concern, frankly. Concern number two is the absurdity of the current set of policies that Los Angeles has to try to comply with the First Amendment while still having some degree of advertising. And the challenge there is under this policy as it stands now, we can have McDonald's advertisements encouraging young people to eat Big Macs, but we can't have an advertisement from a health agency on the side of the bus encouraging children to get more exercise. We can have, for example, a commercial advertisement of a gun store. But we can't have an advertisement challenging or encouraging people not to be violent. There is inherent absurdity in allowing commercial advertisement, but not allowing non-commercial, non-profit, public interest advertising on the sides of our buses. There's an extra layer of absurdity because that bus that's driving down the street is likely driving underneath city-sponsored street banners hanging from our light posts. Now, our policy with the light posts is the opposite. We don't allow commercial advertising. We only allow those banners to be sponsored by nonprofit and cultural organizations. So clearly, this is an area that is crying out for a sensible fix. I understand and am gravely concerned, actually, about some of the issues that the City Attorney's Office has raised. But these other cities, for the most part, as far as I know, and as far as I've heard the City Attorney say, have not been successfully challenged in court. They've folded in the face of legal challenges. But I think that was the case in San Francisco, is it not?
That's not correct. No, the Second Circuit in New York actually ordered them to put the other ads on. Once they opened it up as a designated public forum, they lost their ability, the city lost the ability to control the message. The same thing happened in Chicago.
Well, in the Ninth Circuit where Los Angeles is located, has the San Francisco case been successfully challenged in court yet?
I believe there have been some decisions in district court, and I will have to look at the Ninth Circuit holds that our policy is based on the Ninth Circuit decision. It's a decision that came out in the 1990s. Non-commercial or commercial messages and government messages. You cannot exempt a group. And in terms of the bus advertising regarding AIDS Walk, it briefly appeared in 2012 on city buses for a very short period of time because our contractor mistakenly put it up there. The Department of Transportation immediately corrected that, and it's the only time that it's appeared on city buses. The City of Los Angeles is always a target in these cases. We're always at the battle lines on this. It's a very complicated issue. It is counterintuitive, as you suggest. However, we're just following Ninth Circuit case law. If you want to challenge Ninth Circuit case law, then be prepared to open up your checkbooks, because it's going to be expensive.
But the Ninth Circuit case law you're talking about, did that draw the distinction between the commercial and non-commercial speech, or was that the governmental speech decision that you're talking about? It
drew this distinction between what a government could allow on the buses and what it could not. As long as the city wasn't going into the content of the speech, wasn't restricting certain groups.
Did it endorse a distinction between commercial and non-commercial speech?
Yes, it did.
Okay. So for purposes of today, members, I think that it's important under any circumstances to make sure that we move forward with the advertisements that have been planned for this important event that is a critical event in this city's annual calendar. We are the city that was the founder of the AIDS walks throughout the world. The very first one in the world happened right here in Los Angeles, and I think that's a great source of our pride. I think it's imperative that these ads go forward this year for the AIDS Walk. And I think the City Attorney's Council, that we can do it as a sponsored event, is fine to address this year's issue. And I would be supportive of that kind of an approach if we can amend the motion to provide that for this year. But I still believe that we need to have the City Attorney work with the Department of Transportation, have a more thorough review of this policy with the input of this council and report back in 90 days, Mr. Kretz? In 90 days with a range of options that the policymakers of the city might consider to deal with this issue. But for current purposes, I think the sponsorship approach, if the City Attorney's Office is comfortable with that approach for this year, would be fine with me, and we can, if Mr. Parks, you were making an amendment to that effect, I'd accept that as friendly. So.
Mr. Bloomingfield.
Well, thanks. I want to echo the concerns that I just heard from my colleague, Mr. Krikorian, in terms of that seems like a reasonable approach to move forward for the item today. I don't really understand the distinction between commercial and non-commercial speech, how we can control the message on one and we can't control the message on the other. My hope would be that when we send this back, we have the message. My feeling is once you open it up for advertising, you have created a public forum. And whether it's for commercial speech or nonprofit speech, it's a public forum. Then the question is, how do you make that so that it meets our compatibility standards for what we want to have on a bus, so that it's not obscene, it's not hate speech, it's not anything that's overtly offensive. And I think if we put our heads together, we can figure out a way to do that is content neutral, but has compatibility requirements, because this distinction of commercial and non-commercial, as was pointed out by the examples that Mr. Krikorian lifted, just seems absurd to me. So I'm supporting the motion.
Mr. Koretz. I'll get to you, Mr. Bonnet.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. Krikorian and I have been working on this issue for a while, and I think it's okay to go ahead with this approach today, just to make sure we don't get in the way of advertising for the AIDS Walk in particular. But I think in LA, this is a solution in search of a problem, because we've never had a problem on our buses that generated this to begin with. So, and we've had this policy in place for a number of years, although never enforced it. I think the fact that we, I guess, can't say, know your HIV status, get tested on the side of a bus. We can't say, use condoms, keep AIDS under control, don't spread it, whatever those messages are.
No, you can actually, the government can put those messages on
Right, but nonprofits cannot under our policy. I think that's an absurd policy. I am hoping we can come up with a solution to that, whether it may be an exemption that allows nonprofits to put forward public health and safety messages. I would think if that were to hold up, that would resolve a lot of the problems that we're seeing. I would think the AIDS Walk and their event would fall under public health. So that's something I would have us look at. We should look together at all the possibilities to expand this from the policy that we're adopting today to something greater that would allow us the kind of messaging that we want. And I hope in 90 days of work we can bring back something that resolves this issue.
Mr. Labange.
Mr. Nagel, you're a good city attorney, right?
I hope so.
So can you put that on the banner, the dash bus that runs down Fountain Avenue? The City of Los Angeles supports AIDS Walks 2013.
If we're co-sponsoring it, yes, you can put that on the
Good, and
message.
I think that's what we should do. We should sponsor these messages. Very simple. That's what I want to see. Don't get deep into the other stuff. City of Los Angeles supports. You can walk ahead. You can walk. All right. Anyway, that's what I want, Mr. Nagel, as I said in committee, because we do sponsor a lot of things. And I'm happy to say that the first AIDS Walk was in the 4th District, and John Frau was the president, and I was the deputy, and the late, great Eunice Chesler was so helpful in getting the permits. So City of Los Angeles should support things, put them on our buses. It's no joke, don't smoke. You know, City of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, colleagues. I just want to point out that the committee report actually encompasses everything that has been discussed and recommended Mr. Krikorian and Mr. Labange and Mr. Koretz and Mr. Parks and I had a very lengthy discussion about this in which the city attorney participated in committee. And the committee report actually says, work with the CLA, DOT, city attorney to fix this policy in the way that Mr. Krikorian suggests. It then instructs DOT to let AIDS Walk advertise this year. And then the third one says, request the city attorney to work with DOT to ensure that the advertisements are installed on city-owned transit vehicles in time to promote this year's event. Part of the committee instruction was to make sure that was done legally. That's why city attorney was included. One of the specific mentions in the committee report was Mr. Labange's suggestion about sponsoring. So if we need the additional language in order to make you comfortable, but it's something we considered, it's something we incorporated, and it is something we are directing.
Okay. Mr. Parks.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to have a couple of things clarified. You mentioned in the committee, could you explain to us again what the difference is about advertising on streets versus buses and why there's a distinction about commercial, non-commercial?
Yes, a street is a traditional public forum. From this country's creation, people have been allowed to go into the streets and protest so that people can bring their messages out onto the street. The city can regulate for reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions so that those signs are safe, that they're not impeding traffic. Buses have not traditionally been a public forum. One of the reasons is because the people that are on the bus are a captured audience. They can't leave the bus. What you don't want are people fighting near bus stops over a message. You don't want them fighting in the buses. So you don't want obscene or controversial messages because they're a traffic hazard. So that is why they have traditionally not been a public forum. However, once you open that door, as we talked about in the commission meeting, then we have to allow any message to go on the outside of our buses. And that's why we were here today. And the motion wasn't, the motion before council today wasn't written as clearly as it probably should have been to explain what the council member was just discussing. Mm-hmm. But we needed to make it clear that we weren't just allowing those advertisements to go on those buses. We weren't making an exemption of this particular group.
And then also, would you explain the other issue that has been brought up a couple of times, that we've never had a lawsuit against us? Why would...
Because this policy has always been in place on our city buses. Yes, it has been enforced. And we also enforce, I think there's a misunderstanding that we don't control commercial advertising. Yes, we do. We can regulate the commercial advertising that goes on our buses. If it's obscene, it's not going to go on our buses. If it's controversial, we can regulate that as commercial advertising. We have the power to do that, and we do enforce that.
What happened in 2012 that was contrary to our policy?
Our contractor, Titan, accidentally, somehow one of the people working for them allowed it to go on. Our head of that division in the Department of Transportation caught the error and contacted Titan, and it was immediately corrected.
Okay. Colleagues, I'd ask that we capture or amend this committee report to add the language the city attorney proposed that the city sponsor this for this 2013 event so that we could avoid any liability or future precedent.
Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. So just for clarification on Mr. Parks' issue, I actually sketched it out. So item recommended, and first of all, let me just say, congratulate Mr. Bonin on the hearing that we had on this, because it was a fascinating discussion in T Committee, and we did have a really robust debate about some of the legal ramifications, and it's the kind of work that should happen in our committees, and I think it was very, very interesting discussion. So what I would propose in response to Mr. Parks' concern is to amend recommendation number 1 to add at the end of the sentence, and to report back to the Transportation Committee in 90 days, so that the recommendation regarding the CLA working with the city attorney, that just includes a report back in 90 days. On recommendation number 2, I would modify that instruction to read as follows. Instruct the LADOT to accept the advertising for the 2013 AIDS Walk Los Angeles event as an event sponsored by the City of Los Angeles, subject to the current advertising rates. And then item number 3, recommendation number 3 should remain as is. And
Okay.
Mr.
Parks?
I was going to ask if we have, you said in the sense of pay, do we need to identify a source of funds? If the city's going to co-sponsor, which in the city attorney's mind means we are also obligated to make some financial input.
The city has been a participant in AIDS Walk since its founding. In terms of street closures and participation, it has been a partner in AIDS Walk since the very beginning of this, when Mayor Bradley marched in the very first AIDS Walk, when very few elected officials were even talking about AIDS. And this city's mayor stood up, and so I mean, maybe you're being really belts and suspenders, but I think the city has been a close partner of this event since its inception. I don't think there can be any question that we sponsor the AIDS Walk just by virtue of the great work that the city has always done, along with the City of West Hollywood, to encourage, to facilitate, and to execute the AIDS Walk every year.
Yes, our sponsorship can be in kind.
All right, are we good? All right, then let's prepare. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Oh, Mr. Koretz, I didn't see you on the queue. Is that an accident? No, it is an accident. All right, let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Okay. Ms. Martinez, I understand you have a pretty important introduction for us.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, please help me welcome Congressmember Joe Garcia from the state of Florida to the city of Los Angeles. Welcome. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
Welcome, sir, and thank you for spending time with us today. Mr. Fuentes, do you want to go to item 40?
Sure.
Go right ahead, sir.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to point out, colleagues, that after last week's IBEW MOU conversation, we had, I think, a very good work product as a result of Mr. Wesson and Mr. Krikorian's work on identifying the need to look at work rules and side agreements on a going forward basis. So myself and Mr. Krikorian introduced a motion that does that. And what it does is it brings together a working group process to help to begin to identify, categorize, and ultimately begin to instruct the City Council, the Department of Water and Power, and its commission on how to be able to hopefully be more cost effective. And so the motion asks for a report back, and what it fails to do is ask for a time frame. So I'm doing that verbally. I'd like to see the report back in Energy and Environment Committee in 30 days. Thank you.
Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to thank and congratulate Mr. Fuentes for bringing this forward. I mean, this issue, this set of issues has enraged the people of Los Angeles, and rightfully so. The fact that there are so many of these side agreements and work rules that the people of Los Angeles are not even aware of, that this council has not even been aware of because they haven't been brought before this council before, is an outrageous situation. And it was central to the discussion that this council and the mayor had with IBEW through the course of the last negotiation. But I think the first step in fixing this problem is to get it on the table, to find out what all of these agreements and rules are. And thanks to the Chair of Energy and the Environment's leadership on this, we're going to have an opportunity to do that. We're going to have an opportunity to get all these things out in the full light of day so that we can start to address the most outrageous of these first, and hopefully get a situation where we're not going to have these side agreements that the public never learns about until they read about it in the newspaper, which should never happen. And it should never happen that the members of this council find out about things by reading it in the newspaper instead of dealing with it either in EERC or here before the council. So it's a very, very important step forward that Mr. Fuentes is offering, and I ask for your aye vote.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Krikorian, and thank you, Mr. Fuentes. I have one card. Mr. Walsh, please come forward. John Walsh. Pass. Okay, let's prepare to vote on this item. Members, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Okay, now I'm going to take 2 public comment cards now, and then we will suspend general public comment, and we'll get back into it a little later. But if I could get Deborah Murphy and J.J. Hoffman to please come forward. Deborah Murphy and J.J. Hoffman. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm J.J. Hoffman, and I'm here on behalf of the Los Angeles County Bicycle Coalition. And we at the Bicycle Coalition, we know that if you're not counted, you don't count. In 2011, we organized volunteers to count people walking and bicycling at over 50 intersections across the city. Those volunteers counted 75,000 pedestrians and 15,000 people cycling across the city of Los Angeles. And we're getting ready for our 2013 City of LA Bicycle and Pedestrian Count, which is being jointly organized by the Bicycle Coalition and Los Angeles Walks. This year will be our 3rd count since 2009. This count is a massive undertaking. It requires us to recruit 450 volunteers for 900 hours of counting. And we couldn't do it without the generous support of our sponsors, Pocras and De Los Reyes, Fair and Piers, Stantec, and Flying Pigeon. These private businesses are stepping up to help us collect this data because they understand that the data is the foundation of strategic decision making. This year's count is bigger than ever before. We're adding locations in the Valley, South LA, and the East Side to make sure that the entire city is counted. Now, we need your help to make sure all these new locations have volunteers to fill them, and we ask that you help us get the word out to your constituents to volunteer for the counts. The counts will be on Tuesday, September 10th from 7 to 9 a.m. and from 4 to 6 p.m. on Saturday, September 14th, and from 11 to 1 p.m. Anything you can do to help us spread the word and encourage people to volunteer would be greatly appreciated. We're also happy to accept additional sponsorship to support our efforts. Now, for more information, go to la-bike.org. And thank you very much for your time.
Ms. Hoffman, please come forward. Nice hat. Perfect day for it.
All right. That was Ms. Hoffman. I'm Deborah Murphy. I'm the Executive Director of Los Angeles Walks. Thanks for allowing me to speak at Council today. In the city of Los Angeles, we have an abundance of data on auto trips, but very little is known about rates of people walking and biking in our communities. And yet everyone is a pedestrian at some point in the day. As I always say, we are all pedestrians. Collecting more data can help the City of Los Angeles better target funding to areas of high need for people who rely on walking, biking, and taking transit as their primary modes of transportation. Additionally, counts help measure the benefits of improvements in regards to increases in usage and reductions in collisions when compared to past collision data, so we can evaluate the effectiveness of our investments. In a city that counts cars every day, we need to ensure that people walking, biking, and catching transit are counted as well. We see the massive volunteer undertaking in this 2013 count as an example of how residents in the City of LA care about creating a city that is safer and more inviting for the people to be able to walk, bike, and use transit in their everyday needs. But these volunteer manual counts are not necessarily sustainable. It's a huge endeavor, and we need to have the city step up and invest in the types of automated technology that gather data on people walking and biking year-round. Cities around the country are making these investments, and it's becoming standard practice in transportation planning in cities like Chicago, San Francisco, New York, Minneapolis, Portland, and many others are leading the way. Los Angeles needs to come up to par with those other cities. We need your support in the volunteer efforts and taking towards investment towards automated technology and integrating this data into the city's years of work to come. I encourage council office staff, all residents, employees, business and property owners, kids and adults to get out there and make us count. Who gets counted counts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin. Thank you again, Ms. Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I just wanted to underscore what the last two public speakers came up to talk about. As chair of T Committee, one of the things I'm trying to do is...
Mike, you might want to look to the city attorney.
I'm just comment. Trust me, I'll be cool. Is the folks who just came up and talked, we're talking about a bicycle and pedestrian count. As chair of T Committee, one of the things I like to talk about is that streets just aren't for cars, they're also for walking and they're also for cycling. Every year we make dozens of decisions about how to finance road and transportation improvements based on data of how vehicles move. This year, for the third time, these folks from Bicycle Coalition and LA Walks are going to be going out 2 days in September and counting the number of pedestrians and cyclists so we can then have that data to influence our decisions. You're all getting a letter from me. I'm encouraging you all to co-sponsor this event, help get volunteers to help join the count, and then we'll have some better information on which to make decisions. Thank you.
Mr. Bloomingfield?
Just want to add to that and thank the chair of the committee and the Bicycle Coalition for doing this important count. In response to the council members' request, my office is in the 3rd District. We're covering a number of the volunteer spots for the counting because it is so important to count because we need to build out the infrastructure not just for our cars but for our bikeways and for our walkways. So this is a great program. My team is behind it. We thank you for doing it and thank the coalition for being part of it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. B and Mr. B. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's ask our airport commission appointees to come to the center table. If you could just identify their agenda items.
That's items 6, 7, 9, 10, and 11.
Mr. Labange, I'll defer to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and members. Today in the Trade and Commerce Committee and Tourism Committee, we had a robust discussion over 45 minutes on the background and ideas and concepts that Mayor Garcetti has put forth in this great selection of commissioners. I just want to remind them, one thing I forgot to say is there's very integrated air traffic now with a lot of freight in the belly of the plane and a lot of people, hopefully, in the seats. And that dictates a lot about the movement. The biggest thing that's changed the airport has been the 105 and issues to that. Our fine general manager of the airport was here earlier. She had a meeting in Ontario, which we discussed about. But I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bonin, who kind of I asked some of the same questions that Michael did, and I think this will be a fruitful time. So we welcome you all, and absolutely the commission recommend a strong aye vote.
Mr. Bonin.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, this morning we had an opportunity to meet with these 5 nominees, and I want to repeat what I said in committee, is that over the course of 17 years, one of the through lines in my career in public service has been dealing with Los Angeles International Airport. And I have met literally dozens of commissioners, and I have never met a group individually and collectively that I am so impressed with and so encouraged by. I want to commend Mayor Garcetti for his choices. This is a group that is diverse in experience and in interest and ability, and I'm very encouraged. We had some great conversations about their mutual interest in modernizing our airport, improving ground transportation options, including getting a train there. We have a champion of the living wage on the board in Ms. Goldberg, who I'm so glad to see back in city service. We have folks here who have experience in the airline industry, in law, in planning. This is an excellent team, and I'm looking forward to working with them on modernizing the airport, on regionalizing aviation in Los Angeles, expanding and promoting the living wage, and making sure the airport is, as I keep saying, a world-class airport and a first-class neighbor. I did have one question remaining for each of you, though, and I'd like you all to answer it. During the past year, the city approved the LAX master plan, and as part of that, they approved the Consolidated Rental Car Center, the People Mover, the connection to the airport, a number of projects, including the North Runway movement. There were two options. Alternative 1, which was to move it 260 feet, and Alternative 2, which was to leave the airfield configuration as it is and make significant safety improvements. During the course of the campaign, Mayor Garcetti studied this issue, and he became familiar with the North Runway Safety Study, which I co-chaired with the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce, and which effectively debunked the safety argument. During the course of the campaign, the mayor studied these options, and he came to realize that LAX's own planning documents said that the environmentally superior alternative was the community-endorsed Alternative 2. During the course of the campaign, the mayor came to study this proposal and came to understand that LAWA's own planning documents said that there is a negligible operational efficiency gain between moving the runway and leaving the runway where it is. Ultimately, the mayor came out and supported Councilman Rosendahl and was joined by Councilman Zine in saying we should not move the runway, that we should instead move forward on all of the ground transportation improvements, all of the things that there is consensus on, 95%, and hold back on moving the runway and come back and visit that issue later when everything else is done. Do you agree with the mayor's position or disagree?
Well, I could certainly start. It seems to me, given what you've articulated and what I'm beginning to learn, that there is a significant amount of consensus on most of these issues, and it seems to me that it would be a mistake not to begin moving forward on some of the very important work that we have to do, even though this other issue, the runway, has not been fully resolved, and to maybe postpone that to a date where we have further studied the issue.
Thank you.
I certainly have not looked at this issue in any depth and would, before making a final position, need to do so, but I know you personally and know that if that's how you characterize it, that yes, I would certainly be willing to look at this again.
Thank you.
Just say, first of all, I want to thank Mayor Garcetti for the nomination. I want to thank the council for the consideration today, and say that I'm honored to sit with such an esteemed group of potential commissioners. You know, on this issue, I would say that it's my instinct that there's a lot more that we agree on than we disagree on, and it would be a shame for all of the progress that's happening at the airport with the modernization to be held up by this single issue. It is the subject of active litigation, and I think as a commission, one of the first things we will need to deal with is how to resolve that litigation appropriately. Thank you.
I second everything that Mr. Burton just said. I think it's a shame for the issues where there is full consensus on to be held up by issues where a few issues that there are not. So I would fully support moving forward on all of those issues where there is full consensus. As to your specific question on the runway, frankly, I have not done the level of diligence that I personally would need to do before having a position one way or another on that. And I fully intend to do all the research necessary to have a fully informed opinion.
Thank you. As my predecessors, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Burton said very well. I also believe it's something that needs to be studied more fully by the entire commission. In general, I support the mayor's vision for LAX specifically, and I think we're going to come to the right conclusion and make sure the modernization moves forward without any issues.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to serving with the five of you, with Bea as well, and with Commissioner Velasco, who has been the voice of the community for 8 years. Hope you get to know her well, spend some time with her, so we can all work together for a world-class airport that is a
first-class neighbor.
First-class neighbor. Very good.
Thank you.
Great answers. I expected Jackie to have a great answer, but all of you were impressive with that. Ms. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. President. One of the Van Nuys Airport is in my district, and it's probably the most significant job creator in my district. So it's very important for me to have a relationship with all of you and for you to hold meetings in or near Van Nuys Airport. So many times as I've gotten to know the airport a lot better and its operators, they do feel like they're stepchildren to LAX. And so much focus is put on LAX, which is fine. But we need to work collaboratively with the operators at Van Nuys Airport on their development plan, on their master plan, on issues of importance, because this year I was very involved in saving a school there, the mechanics school for pilots, and we were instrumental in saving the school, but there was so much need and opportunity at that airport, and we need to focus and pay serious attention to that. So I'm looking forward to working with you on that issue. And please hold meetings at the airport whenever possible. Thank you.
Mr. Englander.
Great, thank you very much. This is exciting, and I've worked with many of you and known many of you for many years, so I know you all do great. I want to echo Ms. Martinez's comments on this as it pertains to Van Nuys, and because most of our colleagues are probably going to stand up here and talk about LAWA and Ontario and other issues and what we need to do to really improve the customer experience at LAX. And I got to tell you, and I don't want to glaze over this. This is critically important. And in fact, November 2011, I co-authored a motion with now Congressman Tony Cardenas that basically slammed LAWA and LAX for not paying attention at all to Van Nuys. Van Nuys being a $1.3 billion economic engine, providing over 12,000 jobs to the local economy in the Valley, 320,000 visitors, 5 major fixed-based operators, one of the, if not the busiest general aviation airport in the country. And if you go out and you meet with any of the operators or the FBOs that are at Van Nuys, they will tell you, and they'll spend the day with you complaining about how they're treated, about that the leases expire and they can't get anybody on the phone, the customer service is terrible, it's incredibly expensive. They have so much staff there at Van Nuys, but nobody's responsive. And they will all tell you this. We almost lost, I believe, the mechanics school there because LAWA wouldn't work with them. And we had to have major intervention and all kinds of stories. It's just ridiculous. This is a jewel, and it's treated as a set-aside. There was a report here that then our general manager, Gina Marie, wrote on April 5th, 2012. I encourage all of you to read it. We'll give you a copy, but it ordered improvements, including that the Board of Airport Commissioners meets regularly in San Fernando Valley. I don't believe they've done it since the report was written. These are the things that we're talking about, and I applaud Ms. Martinez for bringing these issues up because it's so important that we get your commitment to pay attention to Van Nuys, and we don't just bring you in here another year from now with another motion saying what happened. So I'd love to get that on the record. And I look so forward to working with all of you, and you each have such incredible experience, and I think the mayor did well in picking each and every one of you. It was unfortunate we didn't get a representative from the San Fernando Valley just because of Van Nuys, well, you're in the Valley. We've got two. Oh, two. Sherman Oaks.
There's 2 of us.
Well, 2. Okay, it's unfortunate we didn't get a majority. Correct the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Englander. Okay, no more speakers on the queue. Mr. Parks, did you want to say something? Okay. Then, members, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Congratulations. You are all commissioners.
Thank you.
As of this moment, congratulations. Look forward to working with you, too. All right, Mr. Huizar. I think we have 3, 4, and 5, which are commission appointees that you're interested in. You want them to come forward, or how do you want to do this?
Yes, sir. Please, Mr. President, if item 3, Mr. Hector Serrano Jr. could step up to the table, as well as Samantha Millman and Filiberto Gonzalez. And as this party fest calms down here, we'll get on with these 3 items.
Okay, you know, Mr. Huizar, as your people come to the table, it's my understanding that Mr. Cedillo's amendment on item 48 is submitted, and he does not want to speak on the item, and we have no general public comment cards. So on item 48 now, that's where we are, members. If we could please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
$15 ayes.
All right. Mr. Huizar, that brings us to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Hector Sedano Jr. is being recommended for the Harbor Area Planning Commission. He is a CD15 resident, social worker. Ms. Samantha Millman is recommended for the Central Los Angeles Area Planning Commission. She is a CD4 resident. And Filiberto Gonzalez is being recommended for the North Valley Area Planning Commission. We heard all these three items in our Planning, Land Use and Management Committee this past week. Very interesting group that has deep passion for improving their local communities, but also participating in the city of Los Angeles. We all were impressed with them in the committee and highly recommend them. I would ask that if each of you could just say your name and your interest in serving on the commission as we go down, introduce yourself to the council and the public, and then we'll take these items up, Mr. President. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Hector Serrano, and I got appointed for the Harbor Planning Commissioner by Eric Garcetti. And, you know, I have a story to share with all of you. I think it's very important for all of you to listen, to hear my story. And, you know, I remember when I was a child in elementary, I had trouble learning. The doctors told me that I wasn't going to amount to anything. I was going to be a criminal, a rapist, and all this negativity. But because my mother and my family, my brothers and sisters were there to support me and constantly, you know, help me do my homework, I am who I am today because I owe it all to my family. You know, growing up in Wilmington, the streets of Wilmington, a lot of people think that there's no future in there. There's no opportunities. But, you know, my story as far as, you know, getting a master's degree and setting up school records, as far as in my sport, going to UC Santa Barbara and being the top 10 school athlete, making history, you know, it's truly, you know, a blessing having my family. And, you know, doing all these things, I want to get involved with my community because I want to build that image, the land of opportunity to every individual, the residents of Wilmington, because, I mean, the image that's being portrayed in Wilmington, is negativity. And I'm going to be there for them. Be working very close with the residents. I've been talking to every resident. What is that they want in their community? In Wilmington, Harbor City, Harbor Gateway, or San Pedro, a lot of these residents, especially in Wilmington, they want streets to be cleaned up. They want their streets to be presentable because we are the heart of the harbor area. And, you know, talking to a Harbor City, they want more recreational activities for the youth. Providing youth employment programs will deteriorate all these crimes and the negativity and the crime rates that we constantly see in our neighborhood. So, you know, I'm willing to work with everybody. You know, I like working with the working class people because those are my people that I work with, my dad and mom, they're working class people as well. So I know what it's like to be a worker. And I am truly honored to be here and to be appointed by the mayor of Los Angeles. You know, being here, you know, I just want to be known as the ultimate servant for the city of Los Angeles because her happiness to me is my only thought. And I thank everybody who's here. I want to thank the labor unions, the executive board members from different organizations, doctors, nurses I work with at the hospitals. I want to thank everybody who's here. And I can't express myself how I feel about this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Millman, a brief introduction, please.
Absolutely. My name is Samantha Millman. I am an appointee to the Central Area Planning Commission. I will keep it brief. The area planning commissions are quasi-judicial commissions. So we have residents of the city of Los Angeles that come before us. So it is profoundly important that we pay attention to process and that regardless of how we rule on a matter, both sides feel that they had a fair process, that their commissioners listened, that their commissioners were prepared for the hearing and ask the appropriate questions so that they can make an appropriate determination on each case. Each case needs to be weighed on its merits. The commissioners are not here to bring a personal agenda, and I really look forward to serving in this regard, and thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Gonzalez, a brief introduction, please.
Yes, Filiberto Gonzalez. First to Mayor Garcetti. Thank you so much for this nomination. To each of you, thank you for your consideration. To the members of the North Valley APC, members Englander, Martinez, and Fuentes, I look forward to working with your offices to promote projects that both spur sustainable job growth and are family friendly. I think that really is the hallmark of the San Fernando Valley that we all love and value, both having job growth and an environment that's family friendly. I came to Los Angeles to attend Cal State Northridge from Salinas, California 20 years ago, and ever since I arrived I've wanted to be of service to my community in any way. So thank you very much for the opportunity to serve the city.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. You have a very special photographer here to your right. You want to introduce her? She's right.
My daughter, Julia Camila Gonzalez, soon will rule the world. You should get to know her now. She has my iPad, and she's very adept at using it.
And very giggly, too, I must add.
Very giggly.
Thank you all for your service.
There's another one.
There's another one. Okay.
Daniela,
they just keep coming.
Well, there's a third daughter, yes. Daniela Mia.
Okay, with that said, Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Huizar, for leading this effort here. Mr. Gonzalez, we need more women in City Council leadership. Right. So I see some future councilwomen here.
They're ready to roll.
Thank you for your service and dedicating yourself to the City of Los Angeles. I want to offer my congratulations specifically to Samantha and Hector. Hector, the pride of Wilmington. It's great to know that Mayor Garcetti, we just heard from our LAX commissioners. He picks the best and brightest and a diverse group. I want to thank Mayor Garcetti for allowing you to serve in the Harbor Area Planning Commission. Hector, it's no surprise that you have a number of community members here to support you. Amy, I see Chris and Irene who are here, who love you, who support you. And it's a testament that they being here of your leadership and your commitment to the community. And we look so forward to working with you and improving the quality of life specifically in Wilmington. And to Samantha, I'm so proud of you. You've done so much of the city, very active in Bet Cedek and the Justice Ball. And your parents are glowing today, Ken and Linda Hillman, who are here, and your fiance Brian. I just want to offer my congratulations to you. You're going to do great work on the Area Planning Commission. So good luck to you. You have our support, or at least my support, and I encourage all and I vote to move the forward. Thank you.
Mitchell, Englander.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Just wanted to thank you all again for stepping up and volunteering. Colleagues, these are one of the most important commissioners we could appoint, quite frankly, area planning commissioners. You guys are the ones that are dealing with projects that we're all impacted by and affected by or benefit by. These are the projects, the planning projects that oftentimes are extremely controversial, that oftentimes you'll have 200 or 300 people in 3 or 4 hour meetings at a minimum. We had one the other night, I think it was 6 hours. And they are incredibly complicated oftentimes. And so we all pray for your guidance and Godspeed. But with that, if my one recommendation, and when we met, I'll reiterate that don't get bogged down into the political environment of either the NIMBYs or the developers on either side, but try to just do what's right and what makes sense. Listen to, try to take advice from staff and guidance as often as possible. They're used to dealing with many of these projects, but we rely on you as an extension of our staff. And it's so incredibly important to the community, and to work with neighborhood councils who have their eyes and ears on what's happening in that community as well. But this is a very important appointment, one that I'm proud to cast my vote on as well, and look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Well said, Mr. Englander. No more speakers in the queue. Let's see if we make 2 daughters very proud. Let's open the row. 3. I'm sorry. Let's open the row, close the row, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Congratulations to each one of you. We'll now do item 35, held special by A card. John Walsh, item 35.
Thanks, guys, for coming down for this. Appreciate it.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Just put up some new posts today. This concerns the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge. Let me give you a compliment. I've been in this city since 1966, and we've had I can't remember a scandal about the Vincent Thomas Bridge. Up there in San Francisco, we are paying the tens of billions of dollars in overruns. We, the state taxpayers down here, are paying it. And now that fool, Willie Brown, wants his name on it. So everyone knows municipal corruption up there is just like here. Now, the press here in LA has not done many stories on this bridge. Don't get involved in the bridge. Don't vote to put your name on the Willie Brown boltless bridge. HollywoodHighlands.org. You're fools if you do.
Thank you. Okay, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Okay, forthwith on that item. Which one for you, Mr. Joyby? 29 forthwith for Mr. Buscaino. Mr. Labange, you had an amendment on, I think, item 18.
Yeah, it has been circulated. Asked for an aye vote. Basically, we're holding money back for Travel Town to try to build a western pavilion. There's an eastern pavilion there. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Let's members prepare to vote. Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Okay, forthwith. Mr. Parks, which was the item that he held?
Number 12.
42, was it?
No,
or 47?
No, 42.
42 for Mr. Parks.
If we can just wait a second, the CAO is coming down.
Okay, so let's wait on that item. Let's move to item 47. Mitch, did you want to speak on, do you want me to move that, or do you want to go?
To my colleague, Paul Koretz.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Koretz, it's my understanding now that Mr. O'Farrell held this on your behalf?
Yes.
Okay, so we're taking it up right now. So you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. In my district, there's a large residential property, and over the years, my office has worked with the property owner to address a number of concerns, as large hillside properties often require additional attention as they work through the city's process. This property has a natural downgrade slope, which creates topography and floodplain hardships. Because of this natural constraint, any structure built on the property must be elevated higher than the natural grade, which is where building and safety measures height. Over the past few years, I've worked diligently with the property owner, neighbors, and homeowners organizations to ensure certain conditions are created and complied with on the property. I've spent much time looking at this project and the surrounding Bel Air community, which contain many homes that exceed current height limits. Given the topography hardship on the property and the height consistency of the neighborhood, combined with the lot side and setback from the roadway, I ask for your vote to set aside the West LA Area Planning Commission's decision and assert jurisdiction on this matter and refer the item to Plum for further review.
All right, Mr. Koretz, we have some cards from the public. A Marion Dodge, I think it's a Victor Marmon or Marmon. John Perica, please come forward. Are you Miss Dodge? then please come forward.
Good morning, council members. I'm Marion Dodge, president of the Federation of Hillside and Canyon Association, which represents 41 homeowner associations spanning the Santa Monica Mountains and their 200,000 constituents. Council should not assert jurisdiction pursuant to Charter Section 245 over the West Los Angeles Area Planning Commission's decision. I would like to remind Council that in order to grant a variance, the applicant must meet required findings. This was explained to the Plum Committee on April 23rd by Deputy City Attorney Amy Brothers after the court ordered the city to set aside its grant of 3 variances. Those variants had been granted by Council when they asserted jurisdiction pursuant to 245, as is the case before you today. The judge said, "These laudable public policy goals, however, may not be used by City Council to dismantle the city's zoning scheme in a piecemeal fashion." Councilmember Huizar wisely expressed his concern that the granting of such variances could lead the city to greater liability in the future. Deputy City Attorney Ken Fong cited the need to really have good findings when you make a variance. Please take the advice of the City Attorney, respect the zoning code, the baseline hillside ordinance, the Bel Air Beverly Crest Community Plan, and uphold the decision of the zoning administrator and of the West LA Area Planning Commission. To do otherwise makes a mockery of planning and sets a dangerous precedent. Thank you.
No, thank you for coming down. Victor and John, please come forward. Please come forward. And then I want to call on, I apologize in advance, I may butcher the last name. I think it's Michael Feisler or Fizzler. Please come forward, sir. State your name.
My name is Victor Marmon, President Wesson. Honorable council members, I rise today to speak against this motion. I speak on behalf of Janice and Henri Lazaroff. Earlier today, you confirmed area planning commissioners. You spoke about how important their role was and their decisions were in city government. The West Los Angeles Area Planning Commission heard this case in June and unanimously found that none of the 5 required findings could be made for a zone variance. On July 3, you vetoed the action of the West LA APC and asked them to look at the matter again. They did that. On August 7th, they had a hearing. It was a full and fair hearing. The APC allowed the applicant and all others who wished to testify as much time as they wanted to present their views and information to the APC. Each of the 5 findings were discussed by the applicant and the APC. The APC unanimously found again that none of the 5 findings could be made. Among the additional findings of fact that the APC made were there were no practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships in finishing the house without the variance. The APC found that this was not the only property in the vicinity that has a stream running through it, that it's not the only property with varying elevations, and that the general topography of the property is essentially the same as the surrounding properties. The APC found that no practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships were demonstrated, and the property can be built upon in a manner similar to other properties in the vicinity. The APC found that granting of a variance would have a detrimental precedential effect. The APC also found that granting the variance would adversely affect 8 purposes and policies of the Bel Air Beverly Crest Community Plan. I ask that you vote no on this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. So now, John, Michael, please come forward. Identify yourselves. Yes, sir. Welcome.
John Perica, retired zoning administrator. The municipal code and city charter require 5 findings that must be made to grant any variance. One of those is substantial hardship created by the city. What did the applicant's attorneys say to these 2 questions at the recent APC hearing? What was why was the alleged hardship not self-imposed? The answer, I cannot answer that question. Next question. What is the need for the variance? Answer. The applicant is designing something that covers up the air conditioning infrastructure on the roof. There is a 2-story by right house, very large, being built right now. If you deny this, the applicant gets to have that house. The applicant has a precedent that is serious. The applicant's family owns 2 lots. They can be subdivided to create 8. If you're talking about an approval here, you're talking about at least 8 possible other cases, and then you're setting a new precedent for future hillside development throughout the Brentwood Bel Air community for that. This project is not distinct from the surrounding properties. There is no other city grant similar to the characteristics of this lot to act as a precedent. All of these findings I've just explained have to be made to grant the approval. None of them can be made. This is my experience as a zoning administrator for 35 years, and I did over 2,500 different cases. This case is a clear case that needs denial. We think you can do that today.
Thank you. Michael?
Good morning. I'm Mike Pisker. As was stated by the West Los Angeles APC on August 7th, the applicant already has a building permit and has completed most of the building shell for a 2-story home with a large basement and below-grade parking. The permitted structure contains adequate space for an HVAC system and leaves room in a spacious flat yard for amenities commensurate with the community. With the current building permit, the applicant can build its house with all the living space that it originally asked for. With the variance request, the applicant is now asking for additional height for additional non-habitable space across the entire top of the house, non-habitable space that is unjustified and unnecessary. The fact that the applicant can complete and occupy its permitted building is sufficient evidence to refute any claim that practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships exist here that are inconsistent with the general purposes and intent of the zoning regulations. I therefore request that you vote no on the motion pending before you, and let stand the APC's second unanimous decision to deny the applicant's appeal on this height variance. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. No more speakers on the queue. Let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
59.
Oh, wait, Mr. Koretz. You pushed your name up there.
If I can speak after the
Yes.
the vote, I just wanted to point out that we're not approving anything here today. We're just allowing Plum to further consider this case.
Okay, now, Mr. City Attorney or Madam Clerk, do we have to re-vote on this, or do I have to vote? So we're fine.
Yeah,
Mr. City Attorney, did you want to?
Mr. Koretz was just clarifying what the action was.
Okay, can we go to item 12? It's my understanding, Mr. Parks, that your comfort level has been elevated on this item. No cards on this item. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
59.
Okay, now I'm going to do a quick break to go to general public comment and ask Mr. Zumadog to please come forward. General public comment.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to start by thanking Councilmember Tom LaBonge for my Wednesday public comment. It was U.S. history when I came here to test the waters and run all the different things that the federal judge ruled on. It was quite loud, peppered it with some curse words, and I thank Councilmember LaBonge for enduring that per the federal judge. So, in case you haven't heard, first of all, you can watch that public comment at lacitynews.com, because everything I do in the city is lacitynews.com. Now, in case you haven't heard, and by the way, it's my energies, you're going to find out I'm not here to turn this into a city council comedy dunk tank, but I want the people to know this is the people's victory. A federal judge said that council broke U.S. and California law here in the way they censored, silenced, ejected, and banned the public comment speakers. Council must endure curse words. Yeah, you could say, hey, council, you stupid effing dummies. And I'm going to censor myself with the F words now, because I certainly didn't fight for the right to use the F word in council. Real First Amendment issues. But here's what is very important. Many times speakers are called off topic, very narrowly defined. The judge said that I was not off topic the time she called me off topic. Regarding addressing council members directly, I could say, hey, Mike, I wish I could say how good it is to see you after all this time, but I can't because you stink, and he's got to endure that. Thanks, Mike. And so these are the types of things that's been very chilling for the people at home. And, you know, I'm very upset because you for years went out there and said, Zuma Dog, you're off topic. Zuma Dog, you're too loud. Zuma Dog, you can't say that. Zuma Dog, you can't do that. It sent a message to the people that you can't do all of these things. And so they go, I better not come down there because I'm not a legal expert. So the people, First Amendment has been restored. You can come down and basically don't make any threats and don't say anything to you because they got to endure it all, baby. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to go to item 42. Again, Mr. Parks, it's my understanding that your comfort level has been... No, I'm wrong.
No,
Mr. Parks.
It has, but I just want to add one thing. This is something I think we had in the past. The city clerk used to notify us when all of our motions expired, and we found out in tracking some of our motions that this one expired very recently with no notification. So I just ask, as this motion goes through, that we request the city clerk to resume the process of notifying council offices when motions are going to expire, as opposed to letting you find out after the fact.
Is there a second?
Mr. Labange.
I'll second it. When I speak to the second, under the policy of then President Alex Padilla, they said if it isn't acted on in 2 years, it disappears. I do believe I missed the fact that some things get stuck in committee, and I think it should be notified for that, just so you know. So I think it's a good motion as we look forward to that. It makes sense. Hello to Alex if you're watching out there.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Okay, that the ayes have it. What do we have? Turn the box over, Mr. Sergeant. Now we have item 44, right? Is Mr. Walsh out of time, or does he have 1 minute? John, you have 1 minute left, and this is on item 44. 1 minute left on item 44.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, or go straight to jwalshconfidential.com. This is 44. This is the Second Amendment to a city contract with the firm of Best & Krieger. The city attorney is building up enormous bills by bringing in private attorneys who are, of course, greased and fixed, and they get the contracts to do, the DWP doesn't bring in private contractors for the electricity. You don't bring in private contractors to run your meeting. Only the city attorney brings in private. This contract is for another 10 months, and it's for $515,000. Best & Krieger. It's the Second Amendment, and they're not going to even question this. You could put 15 robots up here and get the same 15 to nothing.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Okay, Mr. Labange. Now we're going to finish out general public comment, and Mr. Labange will oversee this part of today's agenda.
Mr. John Walsh, followed by Bobby Cooper. Bobby here? Bobby Cooper? And Alexander? You're after Mr. Walsh. Thank you, Alexander.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Always a pleasure to speak in front of Mr. Labange. Last Friday, for the first time, I've been coming here since about 1988. I was denied public comment. I put in a cure and correct letter to the city attorney. He must reply. If he agrees with you, I will go to federal court, where we win all the time on public comment. And if he disagrees, you owe me 2 minutes. And what I wanted to say, which they don't want to hear, is Friday, Filner resigned in San Diego, although, incidentally, there was no proof. There were only allegations. But he did the right thing. And that's why Jose Huizar should resign. There has been no proof offered yet, but eventually there will be proof of sexual harassment, and you will stand by him. This 14 out of 15 all-men's club. That's why we're asking you, Jose Huizar, it's time to resign. And we ask you to go to our website to see our story on John Perez's War on Women. Remember when he was sitting there, and I got it in the front page of the LA Times by pointing to him? See, he's allowed, let me tell you the rules. If you're Hispanic, you're allowed to be a racist and a sexist. This is the guilty white liberal rules of political correctness. I believe it doesn't matter. If you oppress women, it doesn't matter what your race is. But he's getting away with it. Come to our website and see who is the mystery dancer. We have the picture of the First Lady with her same-sex partner. Come and see it on our website and find out who her girlfriend is. We want to thank Zuma Dog and HollywoodHighlands.org.
Mr. Walsh is complete. Mr. Cooper is not here, I believe. Mr. Cooper. So we're going to now call on Alexander.
Good morning. My name is Alexander Kanovodo, and 4 months I'm trying to schedule an appointment with my councilman of District 10, Herb Wesson. I do not have a trash, do not cook, and do not have any caregiver as a disabled person that will help me in things that I could not do. I could not do myself many things. Failure to comply with keeping trash bins on the city streets should be get a discontinuation of my city trash collection service. Being a disabled, I cannot do mandatory labor services for the City of LA Department of Sanitation. My power was cut off, and I'm using now candles almost a month without power at all. I'm on a life support equipment, which by doctor's notice I could not survive more than 1 hour. While the LADWP power was cut off, Department of Sanitation still continue with the billing for the services they did not render, and they never render for me. I never sign up for those services as well. Bringing those questions to the councilman of District Number 10, I was escorted by the police from the Wesson's office just for trying to schedule an appointment. Some amendments need to be made to this issue. How city can force disabled people to perform mandatory labor? I have a bill support here that for months, 2 months, 62 days of services, they demand $72.84. They did not do any services whatsoever. That says total sanitation charges. That's totally ridiculous.
Thank you for your comments. You completed. May I suggest the Board of Public Works? Mr. James is the president if it's on sanitation issue. Next speaker is Richard Robinson.
Mr. President, members, Oprah Winfrey is starring in a new motion picture.
Sir, the butler with Forrest Whitaker, Jane Fonda, Robin Williams as Dwight David Eisenhower, and Hollywood's A-list actors. It's an ensemble. It's magnificent. I think it's the best motion picture this year. Cuba Gooding Jr., Terrence Howard, and Mod Squad's Clarence Williams III. I can't say enough about it. But it's a document of the civil rights movement. Jane Fonda's performance as Nancy Reagan is brilliant. Thank you.
All right, is Sarah Zappa Madras? Hi, Sarah. Nice to see you again, Sarah. Tell us all about your big event. Listen up, members.
Good morning. My name is Sara Zapata Mijares, President of Mundo Maya Foundation and Protocol Consultant for Mexico Food Fair 2013. And I'm here to invite you on behalf of Ovation, which is a frontline entertainment company from Mexico City, and bringing business to the city of Los Angeles in partnership with Zagarpa, which is the part of the Mexican federal government. We want to invite all of you, council members, to be part and be our guests of honors at the opening ceremonies, which is going to be Wednesday, September 18 at 11:30 at the LA Convention Center, West Hall B. And all your offices have received a copy of the invitation in our letter. We want you to be able to walk the exhibit with us and greet some of the 120 Mexican food producers that will be coming for the first time to Los Angeles. And we also want to invite you to the VIP cocktail, where we were going to be presenting the Mexican Food Ambassador Awards. And this is Thursday, September 19 at 5 p.m. at the LA Convention Center at the venue, where we will be presenting these awards to all the local restaurants that will be helping us promote the event in the restaurants by putting placemats announcing Mexico Food Fair. Mexico Food Fair is the first of its kind and will showcase Mexican food and products from Mexican producers from both sides of the border. At least 120 producers will come from Mexico and will be the gathering place for buyers, intermediaries, distributors, and consumers of Mexican processed food to meet directly with the producers and suppliers, and all of these at our LA Convention Center. There will also be some of the best chefs, not only internationally, but local, such as Mexican renowned Chef Aquiles Chavez, Chef Patty Ginish, Chefs Jaime Ramiro.
And we'll pass those out. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, and we look forward to hearing from your office.
On the 18th. Donald?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Clytus, Donald, thank you.
Así buenos días. Council members, President, today is a phenomenal day. I'm about to prepare to finalize my thesis on the history of the anniversary of the Ayers family today. And for those of you who are not familiar, on the corner of 7th and Wilshire, one of the founding members of the Ayers family looked west. 97 years later, a councilman named Julian C. Dixon signed a $1.79 billion legislation for the United States Department of Transportation to build the first metro line, which is the largest line of transportation in the city of Los Angeles. Now, with that being said, the benefit of the members that sit here, that vote each and every day, that spend $9.75 billion of our tax-paying money, is a benefit because we thank you. Some choose to sit here and stay and listen to those that get about 30 seconds to say, we appreciate your service. But what was more importantly about the fact that Julian Dixon signed that legislation is that he sat next to Roy Ball Allard, the first Latino member of the United States Congress. And when he signed that legislation, $975 million is being spent on a 1,872-foot hotel in that same location that 103 years ago, the Ayers family founding member saw that the same subway is going to go west. So I hope each and every one of you, when you get time, when you leave Chambers today, can go take a look at where you spend the money for the beautiful taxpayers of the great state of California. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me have Sid Mazaduzian. Is that correct, Sid?
Labange for many more times. It's Sid Maksudian. It's like Big Mac.
Maksudian.
Maksudian.
Tom Labange-Zudian.
No. Maksudian.
Gotcha, I got you.
You got it. All right, thank you. Council members, for many days that I've been around, and I keep emphasizing the situation in the downtown Merchants where the St. Vincent Court is. As a matter of fact, Mr. Huizar's office is diligently working around the clock to bring Mr. Delijani to the table. I know for a fact they're doing their best. Unfortunately, Shahram Delijani does not come to the table. Numerous efforts that I've made, even as recent as Friday, calling them and requesting a meeting to put an end to this dilemma, because we need them all as a collectively to sit around the table based on the suggestions of all the bodies that embody this particular situation. Mr. Delijani, please, you must come to this table, because you are using unwarranted leverage and you're embarrassing many, many individuals at your particular stands. This problem could be solved if people come together, talk to one another, and find a solution, especially if the dream is to make the Broadway revitalize. Everyone needs each other, including the council member Huizar's objective, which is a large objective. It's not about an individual, it's not about one family, it's about the collective effort of downtown Merchants, building owners, theater owners. So let's not play the spoiler game here. Be an adult, come to the table. It's high time that you show your character and your respect towards Mr. Huizar, his staff, us, the merchants in downtown, Peckler, and all the players, and including the Public Works Commission and the Public Works Chair, Mr. Busquiano. Thank you very much.
All right, Sid, we'll see you later. Brian Barajas, is Brian here? And this is the last public comment card.
Okay, let me see. I'm going to turn in a document called Thermonuclear NWAPA Letter to Farmers, Ranchers, and Industrialists in California and Texas. Now, this regards the NWAPA program under Kennedy, now reamped by the LaRouche PAC organization. Now, what this project is actually changing the biosphere in the context of we are going to green the deserts. Now, how is that even possible? How will water from Alaska through Canada, even east of the prairies, even on the east side, landing towards the Nebraska, Ogallala Aquifer, and also Oregon and California, revitalizing the role of water takes on our industries, and also at the bottom of, well, northern Mexico. Now, this is huge water, quantities of water. Now, how is this even possible that we can even do this? It's very simple. The Constitution gives you the authority to issue credit. Wall Street actually hijacked that principle for themselves, which is called bailouts and bail-ins. Now, the problem with that is this, is we can crush them by implementing the Glass-Steagall Act, which Xavier Becerra, to a comment that I made towards him, regarded Glass-Steagall as the #1 issue, and a firewall, according to Xavier Becerra, will be re-implemented soon. Now, that's important, because what does it mean for Americans to crush a British, Dutch imperial system, which Queen Elizabeth and other idiots will resort to? Now, what does that mean? It means that the green environmentalism, like solar panels and windmills, that's going to be crushed, because no amount of energy issued by those so-called technologies will ever amount to any surplus, shall we say, of population growth. Now, that's very interesting. Now, I want to turn this in.
That completes the public comment. Good afternoon to all public commenters. Madam Clerk, what's before us?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
So ordered.
That clears the desk.
Any announcements, members? Yeah, Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tomorrow is our, we're going to conclude our sock drive tomorrow. we'll have a sock drive presentation where all the council offices will bring forward their sock donations. We'll be delivering to the Midnight Mission for distribution citywide. Please have your staff, colleagues, have your staff deliver the socks to the back of council chambers by 10 a.m. And just to note, we have more than 10,000 pairs of socks for those that are in need in our city, and this will be an incredible presentation. So thank you all for participating and allowing Council President Wesson for us to pay it forward to provide those socks for those that are in need. Thank you.
Thank you. The city attorney had a question. Is it new socks or old socks?
Any socks.
Any socks. Would they recycle socks too as far as
absolutely.
Clothing drive like St. Vincent de Paul? Very good, Joe. Okay, members, are there any adjourning motions? We have adjourning motions? All right, Mr. Buscaino. All rise. Thank you, Mr. Fuentes. Thank you, Sergeants.
Colleagues, I ask that we adjourn today in memory of John Parsons, who passed away Thursday, August 22nd. He was 60 years old, two-term city council member for the city of Redondo Beach, also was a current planning commissioner and longtime civic leader who helped lead the fight to save the Los Angeles Air Force Base amid federal spending cuts. He died suddenly just last week, very sad. In addition to his time on the Redondo Beach City Council and Planning Commission, he was active in the Redondo Beach Chamber of Commerce and the South Bay Council of Governments. In recognition of his contributions to the region, the South Bay Association of Chambers of Commerce named the John J. Parsons SBACC Business Citizenship Award in his honor. The public is invited to funeral services, which will be held at American Martyrs Church, located at 624 15th Street in Manhattan Beach, at 10:30 August 30th. A reception at the Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center will immediately follow. In lieu of flowers, the family requests the donations be made to the Redondo Beach Rotary Club's John Parsons Scholarship Fund. Checks can be mailed to the P.O. Box 411, Redondo Beach 90277. John is survived by his loving wife, Mary Ann, and his two daughters, Danielle and Nicole. Redondo Beach Council member John Parsons, may he rest in peace.
Mr. Buscaino, thank you. Mr. Bonin.
Yeah, I'd just like to join Mr. Buscaino in that. I knew John well during my days working for Congresswoman Harman. He was very active, as Councilman Buscaino said, in the efforts to save Los Angeles Air Force Base, which is a huge jobs and economic driver here in Los Angeles that most people don't even know about. Great guy. He's actually the first guy to teach me how to use a BlackBerry back before they were popular. He was ahead of his time with technology. Really sweet, lovable guy who was just absolutely dedicated to the community. That's a real tragic loss. I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. Members, Mr. Parks.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask that we adjourn in memory of Muriel Siebert, who passed away at the age of 80 on August 24th. Muriel was a financial industry leader, philanthropist, and trailblazer. She's also the founding partner of Siebert, Brantford, Shank and Company, and was involved in financial service business for over 40 years as an analyst, broker, investment banker, and regulator. In 1967, she became the first woman to own a seat on the New York Stock Exchange. At the time, there were over 1,300 male members. She incorporated her firm in 1969. She also, in 2010, her firm earned the distinction of becoming the first minority-owned firm to be among the top 10 municipal bond underwriters as ranked by the bond buyer. Since the inception of 1996, the firm was served as a managing underwriter for municipal bond transactions which exceeded $1.2 trillion and served as managing underwriter for $67 billion in 2012 alone, and is ranked among the top 10 in 7 key infrastructure categories. They maintain 21 offices nationwide and are duly headquarters in both New York and Oakland. In 1975, Muriel announced that her firm would become one of the industry's first discount brokerage firms, a move vehemently opposed by most Wall Street and today is an industry standard. In 1977, she was appointed to New York Banking Commissioner, where she served for 5 tumultuous years during the fiscal crisis, regulating over $500 billion of bank assets. In 1996, she co-founded Siebert, Branford, Schenck and Company with Napoleon Branford and Suzanne Schenck. They quickly rose to the #1 ranked minority and woman-owned municipal investment banking firm, a position they've maintained since inception.
Thank you. Members, I ask we adjourn in memory of Sheila Walsh, Sister Sheila Walsh, born of an Irish immigrant family here in Los Angeles, went to local schools in high school, and then entered the order. Made her dad very happy because one of her brothers was a priest. His daughter was to be a nun. But Sister Sheila, some of you who were in the legislature may remember, she was a great advocate for the poor. She was born in 1930, lived a full life and cared about people and issues. She was a wonderful person who was a lobbyist for many causes. She died recently as a heart attack at the Mercy General Hospital in Sacramento. She was 83 years old. And I will tell you, there's nothing like a great nun. There's nothing like a great nun who makes a difference. They're selfless people. I ask we adjourn in memory of Sister Sheila Walsh. Mr. Sadia.
Let me add that for those of us who served in the legislature, she was by far probably the most effective lobbyist. Head of Jericho. Many of the members would try to avoid her, only because there was no way that we could ever tell her no. She was that effective, and so she was. I used to see her at the Safeway all the time. We used to run into each other all the time. She had a dinner that she would put on. Just a selfless human being and a great advocate for, as she would say, people who lived in poverty, not poor people, but people who lived in poverty. She was the best advocate that they could have. God bless her.
And also Liz Figueroa, the former assemblywoman, said, if you heard from Sheila, not only you felt it from a nun, you felt it from God too. It was very tough to turn the corner on it. Her services are going to be the 29th of August at the Sister of Social Services Mother House in Encino, this coming up. And Mr. Koretz.
Yes, she was one of the few lobbyists that only lobbied for good things. So it was impossible to say no to her because she was always in the right. And as Mr. Cedillo noted, she was a great person, and you couldn't say no because she was right every time. And there were often interests on the other side, but she was incredibly effective because she was there for the right reasons always, and you had to wind up joining her.
Thank you very much. Bless the city of Los Angeles and all its angels, like Sheila Walsh, who's now with the angels as a nun. This meeting is now adjourned. Go ahead and serve the city well.